Greetings, it's Tanya at I Love Iodine. I am going to be doing a presentation on tincture making. As many of you know that are dealing with any health conditions or maybe a parasite cleanse, tinctures are rather expensive, but they're extremely useful. So this is going to show how you can actually make these yourself, which can save a lot of money. Plus you can control the blends that you want to make. Also you can for each get your own things that will actually save a lot of money. I do encourage, if you do have the bottles that you buy from somebody else, keeping that information due to the fact amber bottles are the best way to store it. Also, if you do look at, say, an herb farm bottle, which is a great product, or Gaia Herbs, another great product, that it'll give the amount of alcohol that is used for that particular herb. That's very useful information. There's also information online that give those type of parameters as well on what percentages. That being said, it just kind of look to the experts, if you will, makes it a lot easier. Disclaimer, this information is provided for educational purposes only. I'm not responsible for any allergy, illness, or injurious effect that any person or animal may suffer as a result of information in this presentation. Do not rely solely on this presentation when making an identification whenever we're talking about the plants. And also, if you are using any plants that I discuss, make sure that it's your responsibility to check into. Always seek the advice of a health professional before touching or using any plant or taking any plant medicine into your body. Any information provided, whether written or verbally, is not designed to diagnose or treat any illness, disease, or injury. Please consult a healthcare professional or a medical doctor to address any health ailment, disease, illness, or injury, or before attempting any traditional or folk remedies. Keep all plants and all medicines, and especially alcohol, away from children and pets. Also note that some plants can be toxic if misused, and also some plants are good for you but not good for me, and vice versa. Alright, please do your own research, and best to everybody. So first off, before we get started, let's define what is medicinal herbs. What are medicinal plants? Well, that's just synonymous terms that can be used interchangeably. So what we're defining here is a plant, herb, or plant part or we can be talking about an extract or mixture of these used in herbal medicine. So you might hear them used in various ways. Do not be alarmed. It's just the way language goes. Herbal medicine is also another way that we can say herbalism. So it's the study of the botany and use of medicinal plants is one way to look at it. You'll also hear things like ethnobotany and things like that, and that's the study of how different groups used plants for medicine. So why should we learn about medicinal herbs? Well, herbs are plentiful. There's over 2,000 medicinal herbs worldwide, maybe more. Herbs are readily available to everyone. Many can be grown or foraged for free. I wanted to say money, but I don't think we can grow that yet. Anyway, at least we can't. It's known as people's medicine or folk medicine, and many medicinal herbs have been used traditionally for thousands of years. Hence, they have a long, history. I know a lot of people are obsessed with the idea of research-based medicine. I have a master's in research methodology, so I'm very well versed in how to set up experiments and conduct those and evaluate research and things of the like. Let me give you a warning. A lot of the research that doesn't get the results that either the supporter or the person that's funding it wants, those just don't get published. I learned that, and I was absolutely shocked by that they estimate that approximately 70% of the research studies that actually are done are just basically thrown away. So take that with a grain of salt, and whenever you're evaluating that, because you're only getting what gets put out there. Whereas plant medicine, there is hundreds of years, sometimes thousands of years of historical use. That being said, doesn't mean that just because somebody did it for a long time that makes it safe or really the best option for anybody. Anyway, let's get started with this presentation. So herbal medicine, what we know is that health is not simply the absence of disease, but it's really looking at one's overall physical, mental, and social well-being. And, well, it's useful not only when one is ill or injured, but for energy, vitality, and immune support. Just because you're breathing doesn't mean you're living. So you really need to have like a zest for life. You need to be, you know, spiritually sane. You need to be psychologically sane and grounded in reality. Many people aren't, but we can all hope that one day they will be. Herbs help strengthen, enhance, and tone the system. They can be used preventively and or as needed in times of injury or illness. Now keep in mind, you know, this is very blanket statements here. Obviously, there are some herbs that would never be used for some people, some herbs only for certain periods of time, and some herbs are, you know, the amount in the dosage and the amount that's poisonous is a very fine line. So, you know, be very mindful. There's always, you know, this isn't necessarily safer than patent medicine, the pharmaceutical medicine, or, you know, it's just, we have to be informed. So it's not a replacement for modern medicine. It's best when both are used, you know, together as situations require or in combination. I mean, obviously, if you break your leg and you have a compound fracture, comfrey might help, except you can't have it on open skin. So you might want to actually go see a doctor and get that dealt with. Anyway, in life, it's best to treat the underlying cause, not just the symptoms, and that goes with everything. So where can you get medicinal herbs? You can grow yourself or sustainably forage. That means ethically wildcraft from a safe location, and that means not along a railroad track or, you know, in a place where they spray or, you know, near any, we'll just leave it at that. You can get it from a local health food store or herb shop. You can get online. There's great suppliers like Mountain Rose Herbs, Frontier Co-op, Vitacause, Star West Botanicals, etc. So we need to talk about alcohol. When we're talking about the type of alcohol that we're using in the tinctures, we are using ethyl alcohol, drinking alcohol. Okay. It is the only type of alcohol for internal use. You do not want anything that's been denatured or contains toxic impurities. What we're talking about, if you want to get the best for making tinctures, is to get the strongest you can, grain alcohol. And because it is the main type of alcohol that's produced by grain, and that could be wheat, rye, corn, etc. Now, there's sugarcane alcohol that you can get is very strong as well, which is really good for people that have allergies possibly to grains. There is some speculation that people that have issues with gluten, which I can't understand how that could be an issue with alcohol, considering there would actually be no proteins in it. But that being said, I haven't looked into it enough, so I'm not going to make any statement beyond that. Also, as you know, if you do have a gluten issue, you might want to look at parasites as the underlying cause of that. But that is another topic. You can check out my video on that. I was diagnosed with celiac disease. I don't have it anymore because I got rid of my tapeworm. I was never diagnosed initially with a tapeworm. I found that out later after I was diagnosed with a whole myriad of other conditions. That was the one overlooked. The elephant in the room, if you will. And do not consume the ethanol that is used as a fuel like gasoline, or that's added as an additive to fuel to the gasoline. Also, don't ever use rubbing alcohol either for anything except for external. So tincture terminology. Tincture, loosely speaking, it's a solution of a medicinal or herbal substance in a solvent or menstruum. And for example, it could be alcohol, vinegar, glycerin. Now, strictly speaking, it's a solution of a medicinal and or herbal substance in alcohol. There are other terms for herbs and things like vinegar, that's an aceta. If you're talking about herbs using glycerin, that's called a glycerate, and those aren't technically tinctures. But loosely speaking, people do refer to them as that, and that's fine. Tinctures are concentrated herbal extracts that have alcohol as a solvent. If using vinegar or glycerin, only water, any other mixture other than alcohol, then the preparation is an extract, not a tincture. Now, water can be used to dilute the alcohol in a tincture to get the right proportion, and that is the right percentage of alcohol. So what we can conclude is that all tinctures are extracts, but not all extracts are tinctures. A tincture is a solution made by extracting medicinal properties with alcohol. A glycerate is a solution made by extracting medicinal properties and flavor from plant material with vegetable glycerin. Glycerates are sweet herbal extracts. Acetum is a solution made by extracting medicinal properties and flavor from plant material with vinegar. All can be made with freshly dried flowers, leaves, roots, barks, and or berries. So, some terminology that we'll use. You might hear the term macerate. It means to soften or become softened by soaking in a liquid, soaking a plant in a solvent. You might hear of the term marc, and that's M-A-R-C, and it's the remaining plant material after extract is removed. You'll hear the term menstruum, and this substance that dissolves a solid or holds it in suspension, and it is just a solvent. You might hear extract. That's a preparation containing the active ingredient of a substance in concentrated form. So, as we've stated, there's many reasons for making tinctures. Here's some additional ones. They have a long shelf life, 4 to 6 years, maybe even longer if you keep them in a cool, dry place in a dark amber bottle and you keep them very well sealed. It's concentrated medicine. They're convenient and easy to use. It can be taken straight from the dropper or diluted in water, juice, or cold tea. It's great for first aid. So if you're out there, it is something that you can have made from the plants that you can gather at certain times of the year that aren't available during other times in the year. So if you make a tincture, you're preserving it for use in the wintertime, for example. Like say, for example, you go pick elderflowers. Well, you got to keep them somehow. Of course, you can keep some for tea and everything like that. But if you made some elderflower tincture, you would have it ready whenever you started feeling sick. Maybe, introduce that into some of your elderberry syrup as well. And then you have a thing that has been proven scientifically to help with combating flu symptoms and other viruses. Not making any medical claims. Remember that. No medical claims. And another reason, self-sufficiency. The more you learn, we learn chemistry in school. This is a way to apply chemistry in the real life. And of course, as stated before, it's very economical to make yourself. If you have friends, you can share amongst those. Maybe kind of pull some money together and get a few herbs and get a large bottle of alcohol and make everything that everybody in your circle needs for the next year. So the benefits of using alcohol. Alcohol is an excellent solvent. And alcohol extracts a wide range of plant properties. A lot of the plant properties are actually not able to be extracted in, say, water or vinegar or glycerin. Alcohol is efficient at dehydrating and breaking down plant cell walls in order to extract the medicinal properties. Alcohol also allows for easy absorption into the bloodstream. And since you don't have to really digest it because it's already in liquid form, then you have an extra benefit. But that would be with all liquids, so it's not just specific to alcohol. But in conclusion, alcohol extracted healing compounds of plants enter the body very quickly. Downsides to alcohol. Well, it's highly flammable. It's not heat stable. So you can't add it to your tea because it will evaporate off. It has no nutritional value. And what I mean by that, I'm not talking about maybe the nutrients that could be in a fortified wine or in a beer. But if you're talking the straight actual alcohol, it has 7 calories per gram, but no nutrients. It also may not be suitable for those with liver issues or taking certain medications. And it's not appropriate for children, elderly individuals that prefer not to consume alcohol for personal or health reasons. Few notes on alcohol. Fresh herbs need a higher proof of alcohol than dry herbs. This is due to the moisture content in fresh herbs diluting the alcohol strength. Some herbs have a higher moisture content than others. It's recommended to use organic 190 proof, that's 95% alcohol, that can be used full strength or diluted with distilled water as needed. Vodka or brandy with a high proof, 60 proof minimum for dry herbs, 80 proof minimum for fresh herbs, that's a 40%, and a 30%, when we're talking the 60 proof, will work well for many herbs, but not for all. Glycerin is an alternative to alcohol, also called glycerol, a thick, sweet-tasting liquid that's clear in color. This is a natural result of breaking down oil or fat, and it is produced when you make soap. Anyway, I also do that too, so if you want to check out some soap-making stuff, I'll be doing that in the future as well. Although sweet, it contains no sugar and has a low glycemic index. It's odorless. Extracts made with glycerin are known as glycerites, not tinctures. It has anti-fermentative properties that are efficient for preservation. Some herbs that make good glycerites. Burdock, you can use the root or the seed. Chamomile, the flowers. Chasteberry, cleavers, dandelion, echinacea, using the root. Elder, using the flowers or the berries. Fennel, ginger, golden seal, hawthorn, mugwort, mullein, oat tops, peppermint, skullcap, Siberian ginseng, which is also known as erythro, and using that as a powdered root. I really like that one. Uva ursi and valerian. Another alternative to alcohol is using vinegars. Vinegar is a sour-tasting liquid produced usually by oxidation of the alcohol in wine or cider and used as a condiment or food preservative. I'm a big fan of raw apple cider vinegar. I use that almost every day in my drink, in my water in the morning, and it's delicious. Add a little maple syrup to it if you want some way to stay hydrated in the summertime. And just as a side note, so the vinegar, we call it an acetum, dilute solution of acetic acid that is used as a solvent, and that is for a drug. It's a solution made by extracting medicinal properties and flavor from plant material with vinegar. You might have heard about fire cider. That's actually using vinegar and putting various vegetables and, of course, fruit, because if we're talking about peppers, those are fruits, into it and letting it sit for quite a long time, weeks to months, and adding some local honey, preferably. The honey's a big thing. If you want to look into deeper, what you think you're getting on the shelf, you better know where that comes from. Better know where everything comes from nowadays. But anyway, there are some cool recipes, and you got a little bit of control. But basically, fire cider is going to be an onion, some garlic, lemon slices is really good in there too. Hot peppers. I put in fresh turmeric, ginger, peppercorns as well. You can toss a little bit of rosemary in there, and it's quite delicious. And it is a nice extract. And then whenever it's done, put some the honey. You can do it during or after. I do it after it has done its extract, and then you're good to go. Store it in the refrigerator, take a shot of that, dilute it in water if you like, and there you go. Next, we're going to talk about the difference between a tincture and a liniment. A liniment is a liquid or lotion for rubbing on the body to relieve pain. It can be made with ethyl alcohol, vinegar, rubbing alcohol, oil, etc. In liquid form, it's made like tinctures, but it is for external use only. Never make tinctures with rubbing alcohol. It is poisonous. So there's various methods for making tinctures. We're going to talk about the percolation method and the maceration method. The percolation method, you have to have dried herbs only. It's complex but quick. And what it means to percolate, whenever you're talking about a liquid or gas, is you're filtering gradually through a porous surface or substance. Percolation is defined as the extraction method when extractant, also known as a solvent, goes through the permeable layer of herbal material. And the other method is the maceration method. It can be used with fresh and dried herbs. There's two different ways that you can do that. You can do the Folk method, which is simple, but it is slow. Both of these are actually going to be slow. And we're going to talk about why one is simple and the other one's a little more complex. It's called math. That's the difference. And being more precise. And you'll see why it's important to be precise for a lot of things. And this is actually helpful to be a little more precise for, quality control, if you will. And what the other method is, the weight to volume. It's moderately complex and slow, but it is more precise. Plant parts that can be used. Basically, all of them, not necessarily from any particular plant, but there's plant parts basically can be used to make tinctures from various plants, and you can use all of the different parts, but like I said, not necessarily all parts of the same plant. So roots or rhizomes, rhizome, we're talking like ginger, okay? Stems, think about the stems of cleavers, or peppermint you can throw in there, that's no problem. Barks, you can use the inner bark. You might think, well, why would I want to use a bark? I don't know, do you eat cinnamon? That is actually the inner bark of the cinnamon shrub. That's rolled up, and then they grind that up into your cinnamon powder. So that's not an unusual thing. A lot of our spices come from inner barks of shrubs and trees. And of course, you can eat that in case there's a survival situation as well. You need to know which tree. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. You need to do your research. I mean, yes, you can do it with a white pine and you can do it with other trees, but don't do it with a toxic tree. Is what it is. Leaves of various plants. Not all of them. Again, don't be making tinctures with water hemlock. It will kill you in any form, whether it's in a tincture or whether it's fresh or whether you cook with it. And of course, various flowers like elder flowers. Fruits, think of the elderberries. Think of seeds. And saps and pitches, think of like some pine sap, and you can do that and make a lovely thing. Pine pollen is also a really nice thing to collect, about getting ready to be about that time now. So anyway, percolation method in brief. So this requires special equipment, basically like a chemistry. Like it's pretty intense. You can make it yourself, but that's still pretty intense too. Percolation cone with a stop cork or a clear glass funnel can be made by cutting bottom off of a glass bottle, but requires glass cutter, which I do not have. Packing rods, canning jar, dried plant material. Fresh plants must be tinctured with maceration method because they can't be used with this method. A small weight, for example, a quartz crystal or a rock, not a dirty rock, a clean rock, please. A grinder to ensure material is powdered finely enough to permit adequate extraction, etc. Success depends on many factors. The texture as well, the fineness of the powder, proper setup, etc. It takes a while to perfect. Careful notes are essential to compare batches for determining what works best. Must percolate a minimum of 12 hours, but 24 to 48 hours is better. All right, so this is what the glass funnel looks like. And then you can see what the kind of the bottle looks like that people can, cut the bottom off. Alrighty then. And you can layer the, you have the perforated plate, you put the herbs on top and the extracted liquid, and it goes through the herbs, and you have a drain valve rather. Never done it, so all I know is how to do it in theory, not how to do it in application. Now, regarding to theory and application, I do know the maceration method, both the Folk method and the weight to measure. So that's what we're going to talk about. Some essential materials that you need. Well, firstly, you need some herbs, dried or fresh, organic or ethically wildcrafted. You don't really want pesticides in your tinctures. You don't want pesticides on your food, so make sure you know what you're buying. Wide mouth glass jars, for example, canning jars with tight-fitting lids, a knife and or chopper. I'm sure everybody has a knife, at least in their kitchen. Some cheesecloth, fine mesh strainer, potato ricer, and or cotton muslin cloth. You need some high-proof alcohol, and that is called the menstruum in tincture preparations. Amber glass bottles, ones with droppers are preferred. Now, if you have some brown bottles, that's what we're talking about here. Maybe you could save some from things that you've purchased in the past, and then you don't have to invest in new ones. Just make sure that you clean them really well, and I prefer boiling them and sterilizing them as well after running them through the dishwasher to make sure that all of the dishwashing liquid detergent type of things are thoroughly removed and they are sterilized. A label and a pen marker. You need a notebook as well, and that's very important. And with respect to the lids on the jars, do not use metal lids. It will corrode. You can use a plastic lid or parchment paper or sandwich bag to protect the metal lid if that's the only thing you have. Additional helpful materials is a scale to measure. It's going to be very important if you're going to do the weight to measure way of doing it. If you're doing the Folk method, then you don't need the scale. A blender and or grinder, mortar and pestle, measuring cups, graduated cylinders, paper towels, sponges, rags. Clean up after yourself, please. A notebook, as stated, you want to keep careful notes on, whenever you made it, how long it's been, that you have it sitting there. And then, when you extract it, you want to label the jars, you want to put kind of a lot number on there, especially if you're making the same herb over and over again. That way you're using the oldest ones first. A dehydrator or solar dehydrator. You can make a solar dehydrator yourself. Metal funnels are nice. Make sure it's stainless steel, not aluminum. Measurement conversions. An average dropperful is approximately 1 milliliter, approximately 20 drops. And of course, 2 would be double that. A teaspoon is approximately 5 milliliters. An ounce bottles is approximately going to have 30 doses of 20 drops. That's approximately 30 droppers full. Just to get an idea, like when you're making it, how much do you want to make? I mean, you got some herbs. Maybe you don't want to make 8 ounces and have a lot, or maybe, you do. And, you know, maybe you're going to make and share with your friends. So you want to do a quart size of 32 ounces, and maybe you wanted to get in a side business and make it and sell it. Make sure you check the laws out in your state on how to do that before you start, you know, going into any business endeavor. Make sure you check the local laws. Okay, so basic tincture making methodology. What you want to do is you want to fill your jar with plant material. You want to cover with a high-proof alcohol. You want to store for a set time in a cool, dark place. Shake periodically. Strain and pour into a properly labeled bottle. That's it. I guess we're done. We can end the video. I'm kidding. Notes, you really want high-quality, clear, and low-flavor liquor like vodka or grain alcohol. Definitely the preferred. Stronger alcohol types can be diluted with distilled water to reach a lower alcohol content by volume. I think that's the best way to do it because that way you can get the exact percentage of alcohol that you want. Do use distilled water. Don't use tap water. Basic glycerate making methodology. It's going to be really close to the same. You're going to fill the jar with the plant material. In a separate jar, you're going to mix glycerin and distilled water to desired ratio. Shake to combine. Cover plant material with glycerin mixture. Store for a set time in a cool, dark place. Shake periodically. Strain and pour into a properly labeled bottle. Do not put it in a body. And you want to use organic vegetable glycerin from a quality source. It doesn't have to be USDA certified, but make sure you know what you're getting. Labels, put the name of the plant, both common and botanical is preferred. A lot of people use the same name for different plants, so make sure you're familiar with those so you don't make a mistake with that. Plant parts used, write what you used, whether it was the leaves, flowers, roots, etc., and whether dry or fresh. Because if you found that you didn't like the way it came out, then you know how to modify it in the future. Or if you love the way it came out, you know how to replicate it and do it again. Alcohol percentage and type of alcohol, amount of plant material, date bottled, length of maceration. And the harvest date of the herb if it is known. If it's not, don't worry about it. How to store. You want to keep it in an airtight, light resistant. That's an amber glass bottle is a good one. Blue is also a nice one. Avoid exposure to direct sunlight. Avoid excessive heat and store away from children. And of course, pets can't open bottles, but you need anything of glass and stuff away from pets too. You don't want them knocking it off and whatnot. Store in a cool, dark place like a cupboard or closet. Typical dose amounts. Average dose typically ranges from 20 to 40 drops. Take 1 to 4 times a day. The more acute a condition, typically the more frequent the doses. Best taken on an empty stomach between meals. Best diluted in water, cool tea, or juice. Dosage depends on herb, condition, and or individual. Frequency may be daily or only short term depending on above factors. Keep in mind, I'm not giving medical advice. If you're taking any medicine, please consult your healthcare provider. Even if you are your own healthcare provider, consult yourself. Totally fine. Folk method, step-by-step instructions. Okay, so the folk method, we need to think about the amount of herb. So basically, we're not measuring anything, we're eyeballing. So if we're using fresh leaves and flowers, we want to fill the jar 2/3 to 3/4 up, okay, because they are going to pack down in the material. If we're dealing with dried leaves and flowers, they are going to absorb a lot of that moisture, so you want to be using 1/2 to 2/3. And if you are using fresh roots and barks, berries, use about 1/3 of the jar filled up to 1/2. If you're using dried roots, barks, and berries, you're going to be using less because the moisture has been removed. You're going to be adding that moisture back in with the alcohol water solution. And what I mean is you dilute the alcohol to the percentage you want with the water, and it's going to absorb that. Step-by-step tincture making. If using already prepared, that is store-bought herbs, then proceed to step 2. If not, you're going to remove any debris from the herbs. Remove leaves and flowers from stems and or stalks if not using. Do not wash leaves, flowers, or stems. If using freshly dug roots, wash and scrub well to remove any dirt or debris and pat dry. If you're going to make sure the alcohol is going to kill any pathogens that you want on your things. But if, for example, if you are, like, say, flowers and stuff, if you wash them, you're washing away a lot of the good medicine because that's in the pollen and all the good stuff that is in the plant. And now leaves, say you pick some dandelion leaves, you could clean those by soaking them a little bit or rinsing them, but make sure you pat them dry. You don't want so much water being added to your alcohol mixture because that's going to dilute your alcohol. Chop fresh herbs with a quality knife or grind dried herbs to increase the surface area for the maceration. Place herbs into a clean, dry, wide mouth glass jar, like a mason jar. And when we're talking about herbs, we're referring to the plant material being used. It could be anything, flowers, leaves, roots, etc. Okay? We're not talking just the green plant material. We're talking about herbaceous plants, and in some cases, we're talking about trees too, and shrubs. Step by step, tincture making. Step 3, pour enough alcohol over the herbs to completely cover. Very important. You do not want any mold growing in that. The percentage of alcohol varies by herb, and if dry or fresh, we've talked about that. As making medicine organic, non-GMO alcohol is ideal. A neutral flavored alcohol is usually preferred, unless you want it to taste like cucumbers, like my cucumber vodka that I have downstairs. Ugh. But that is what I bought because that's what they had. Live and learn. Brandy works well for tincturing berries and for fruit flavors as well. Make a nice cordial out of it. Step 4, you want to cover tightly with a plastic lid and place the jar in a cool, dark place. For example, a cupboard. Step 5, allow to macerate, soak for up to 4 to 6 weeks, minimum 10 to 14 days. 6, during this time, give the jar a vigorous shake every 1 to 3 days. You can do it more if you feel like it. It's up to you. Note, keep an eye on the alcohol level to ensure all your herbs are still covered. Dry herbs may absorb the liquid over time, so add additional alcohol as needed. Cover plants completely, very, very important. We've talked about covering the metal lid with plastic or parchment to keep it from corroding. Step 7, once maceration is complete, lay your cheesecloth or muslin cloth a few times over top of a clean bowl and secure with a rubber band if necessary. Strain the mixture through the cheesecloth or whatever you're using, maybe a bandana. Hey, we're doing the folk method here. And with very clean hands, gather the cloth and squeeze strongly to extract every bit of possible liquid from the herbs. The marc of many plants can be composted. The marc is the leftover material. A fine mesh strainer or potato ricer can be used for most herbs as well. Step 9, cover and allow the liquid to settle overnight and strain again or decant through a finer filter, for example, a coffee filter, if necessary. Use a small stainless steel metal funnel to pour liquid into labeled amber bottles. Those are the preferred. Store in a cool, dark place. Now, of course, if you don't have that, you can kind of create that. If you clear glass, wrapping it in a black sock will block out some of the light. There, you can put tape around it. There's a lot of things that you can do. So don't fret if you don't have something. Just be like MacGyver and figure out what you need from what you got. Okay, and so now we're going to talk about the weight to measure method. It's the amount of herb. We're going to start with that first. General guidelines for most herbs. Fresh, it's going to be 1 to 2. We're going to talk about what that means right now. Each gram of herb is macerated in 2 milliliters of alcohol. So that's how we're going to weigh things out. Okay. And if you're using dry, it's going to be a ratio approximately 1 to 5. Some are different. Some are 1 to 4. These are general guidelines. Okay. And again, when you're dealing with fresh, you want to be using pure, like grain alcohol of a 95%, also known as 190 proof. If you're using a dried herb, it's going to vary 50 to 65% or 100 to 130 proof alcohol as usual. There are some herbs that are more delicate, and you would be using a weaker alcohol, if you will. And again, each gram of herb is macerated in 5 milliliters of alcohol if we're doing a 1 to 5 ratio. So some books that you might want to get into if you're getting into actually making it that gives good instructions and recipes is the Herbal Medicine Maker's Handbook by James Green, Herbal Medicine from the Heart of the Earth by Cheryl Tigner. Oh man, I can't ever say her name, but she's really good. She has some really good videos. Pardon the fact that I'm not very good at pronouncing a lot of things, especially names. Medicinal Herbs, a Beginner's Guide by Rosemary Gladstar. The Modern Herbal Dispensatory by Thomas Easley and Stephen Horn. The Book of Herbal Wisdom, Using Plants as Medicine by Matthew Wood. Making Plant Medicine by Rico Skek. I don't know how to say his name. I have his book. It's really great. And I apologize for the fact that I don't know how to say his name. If you want to look on where to get some organic alcohol sources, Prairie Vodka is an organic 80 proof. It's approximately $20. Ocean Vodka comes in a beautiful bottle and it's $30. If you are in Maryland, McClintock Organic Certified Distillery is located in Frederick. Organic alcohol company is 190 proof alcohol. They ship from Oregon. If you live close to Oregon, you can actually go there and pick it up yourself. They have grape, cane, wheat, corn, etc. That's where I got mine, and they've been great to deal with. And so this is the end of this. What I'm going to do is, if you want to get in contact with me, you know my website is www.iloveiodine.com. And my email, you can just email me as well. Now, I want to say, if you want to subscribe, please do. I will be adding more content. I am going to do a demonstration video in the future, and hopefully that helped. Just understand, if you want to make your herbs, it's very easy to do, and it's something that can be done by anybody. If you do have any specific questions, please do reach out. Go to my website as well. And if you are in the Maryland area, maybe you'll come to an event where I'm talking and we can meet face to face, which would be great. All right, peace and love, everybody. Hope that you all have a really great spring. Enjoy it. The flowers are coming up now, so make sure you don't miss out on the beautiful blooms that are happening almost overnight. You go out and it's like, bam, they're out there. So enjoy it. Nature's wonderful. All right.